Okay, so this video is basically how to block in Chivalry. Obviously, Chivalry has over the shoulder perspective. And this is a training section. Basically, you can't die in this section. And as long as you don't hit him, he'll just keep attacking all day long. But I've actually found the sweet spot for blocking. Like, my block is always pretty good, but I found the sweet spot for blocking. And basically, it's right between my shoulder, my right shoulder, and my cursor. And basically the area that you aim to block versus is roughly the middle of his weapon. Obviously the closer you are, the harder it is to block, because you have to make a more dramatic movement to make sure you are blocking in the right area. So the overheads are obviously a bit up. Not too much, but a bit. Also really important to make sure your mouse cursor is fast enough to be responsive to blocking, but not so fast that you overblock. Because if you overblock a little bit, it's just as bad as, well, underblocking. If I was to go just a little bit too far to the top and left, he would hit me for sure. I'm gonna do a few of those. The actual sort of direction that you want to be facing with your block, sort of directly at him. Kind of put him in between your shoulder and your mouse cursor. If you use this location to block, as you can see, I pretty much haven't missed a block. So just a little bit up, and block up. Just keep that weapon, not the player, keep his weapon location in that sweet spot between the shoulder and the cursor. And you can block close stabs, you can block anything. So, the weapon is roughly in the middle. I'm aiming for roughly the middle of the weapon when I block, and I'm trying to get the middle right between my right shoulder and my cursor. There's a bit of play, like there's a bit of range, and it's actually kind of helpful to experiment with what that range is, because obviously it's not exactly between the mouse cursor and the shoulder, but that's a pretty safe guiding point to play with. So on the left I can, but you see how close that was? That one time there he was a little bit, I was a little bit to the right and he hit me anyway. So I was a little bit too much that way. See that? I did that on purpose. See that? Right about there is the maximum range. A little bit more and he'll start hitting me on that side. And if he's thrusting, depending on which direction his weapon's coming from, yeah, well, it depends on which direction his weapon's coming from. A polearm thrusts from the other opposite side, I've noticed, as a sword. So I'm actually just missing on purpose here a few times so you can see exactly how finicky that range is. Right about It's not good enough to have my body facing him when I'm in this perspective. If I was in first person, okay, the cursor would be right on. But since I'm in third, the actual right on is right in between the shoulder and the cursor. So basically, yeah, you can block all day long if you use that area to block. And like I can even try to get really close to him. Doesn't matter. You can block everything if you have it in the right area, even from right up close. Obviously, this might be a little bit hard if you have a high ping. Harder if you have a high ping. Because the timing will be a little bit more difficult. But yeah, that's it. It'll be harder if you have high ping, because you don't see the attack until after it starts to come. And if you're up really close, that gives you enough time. The thing about blocking is the further away you are, the easier it is, because that target area becomes much smaller, and there's less location that you have to adjust to. So this is basically my whole block range from a distance, but up close, that whole block range becomes this much bigger, basically entirely around his character. I like this training section. It just teaches good timing, good location. I mean, blocking 1,000 times in a row, and you'll really start to memorize the exact location for every swing. Tight. Helps start to learn the shoulder movements that indicate what strike is coming. Just more naturally. The other thing that's important is this guy doesn't feign, but obviously players will. So try to block at the last minute. So that claymore is pretty fast weapon, which is good. It's good to block versus fast weapons. Also train against man-at-arms to practice versus even faster weapons. Nice thing about this training area is it'll teach you to build the motor reflexes to whatever you want to practice. Yeah, it's all about repetition, basically. You'll never get the motor reflexes down if you don't repeat. And this just provides like really fast repetition. Anyway, before I sort of noticed this sweet spot, I was good at blocking, but I would still miss the really close stabs like that, and occasionally the overheads. But since I've discovered this sweet spot, pretty much, like you say, I can block everything if I'm really paying attention. Another thing I like to sometimes do is just run into the block. Sometimes going in with the intention to block and not be defensive is a good defense. So instead of being defensive and waiting for the block or waiting for the swing, I'm going to run right in and expect the swing, and I'm just going to have my block ready. And that's actually good. Then you can do a quick counterattack. I'm going to miss him on purpose because I can only hit him 3 times when this thing ends. But actually a good way to practice a quick counter. It's also a good area to get an idea exactly what kind of weapon range you're looking at. Obviously ducking doesn't work quite as well against the player as it does against the NPC. Otherwise ducking would be amazing. But it's still good to build up the more reflex that the sequence to the proper timing. Because against the player will come in handy if you parry too soon and then you know you're going to get hit. Sometimes the duck will save you. Anyway, that's blocking. Blocking from third person perspective. Alright, I'm going to see how many I can do in a row. You guys can tell me if you beat it. 1, 2, 3, 4. 9, 10, 11, 12. 3. Thirty-three. 'Not counting that obstruction. 43, 44. 48. 50. 53. 56. 57. It's 66, I guess.